Girl, look at that moon. It's a gorgeous night. But for Blair, it's the start of a total nightmare. She's standing in this massive, cold hallway, heart pounding, because tonight isn't just any night, it's her wedding night. And honestly, she looks like she's heading to her own execution. She finally works up the courage to open those heavy doors. The room is empty. Typical, her new husband is nowhere to be found, and the silence is deafening. She sits on the edge of that huge bed, wondering if he's even going to show up, or if he's already avoiding her. She remembers how it used to be, or how she thought it was. The warmth, the hugs, all just a beautiful lie. Instead of waiting around, she sits at her desk. She's got a mission, and it's not about romance. Her hands are shaking as she writes, but she has to stay focused on the only thing that matters. Her son, her sweet little Aziel. In her past life, he was her entire world. Just thinking about him brings her to tears. She'd do anything to see those tiny hands again. That's when the look in her eyes changes. She's not a victim anymore. She's a woman with a plan. She goes back to writing. She needs to conceive Aziel, and for that, she needs the Duke. Suddenly, there are footsteps, heavy, confident, and coming right for her. Speak of the devil. Duke Herden appears out of thin air, looking way too handsome for a man who's about to break her heart. Blair jumps out of her skin. She definitely didn't expect him to actually show up tonight. He's acting like it's no big deal, reminding her that it is, in fact, their wedding night. Like, okay, Mr. Cold and Calculated. Then he gets close, way too close, and asks if she was really waiting for him all this time. His eyes are so intense, it's hard to remember that this man might have been the reason she died in her past life. When he reaches out to touch her face, Blair completely freezes. Her body remembers his touch, even if her heart is guarded. He tilts her chin up, and the tension in the room is off the charts. He leans in, and for a second, it looks like a fairy tale. But Blair knows better than anyone that this is a horror story. Her eyes stay wide open. She can't let herself get swept away by the moment. He kisses her, but her mind is screaming. This isn't love. It's just a means to an end. She feels the warmth of his embrace, the very thing that fooled her once before. But she's holding on tight, reminding herself why she's even doing this. She won't be fooled by his warmth again. She knows exactly who this man is. Her gaze is ice cold. She's using him, just like the world used her. As she falls back onto the bed, she lets out a shaky breath. This is it. She grips the sheets, bracing herself for the night ahead. She closes her eyes and pictures her baby. This is all for you, Aziel. She's willing to endure anything, even the man who might have killed her, to bring her son back. Herden looks down at her, and honestly, the man is a total smoke show, which makes this whole thing so much harder. Let's rewind to 2 years before all this regression drama started. The palace was buried in snow. Herden was already planning his escape, heading out to the carriage without a second thought. The wheels were turning, and so was Blair's life, spiraling out of control. She ran after him, calling his name, desperate for just a moment of his time. She was so far along in her pregnancy back then, looking vulnerable and so tired. He didn't even touch her. He just looked at her like she was some stranger who happened to be carrying his heir. She told him it had been 6 months since she'd seen him. Can you imagine? Half a year. He didn't even blink. His face was like stone, totally unmoved by her sadness. She was literally sweating from the stress, trying to find the words to make him stay. The palace looked like a frozen prison, and that's exactly how Blair felt inside. They ended up sitting across from each other in the carriage, the air between them colder than the snow outside. She had so much to tell him, so many feelings, but every time she looked at him, her mind just went blank. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain. The baby was kicking, and it was intense. She tried to make it a moment, telling him the baby recognized his father. And what does he do? He just stares out the window. Talk about a cold shoulder. She tried to play it off, saying she was fine, but the rejection was written all over her face. She whispered that she understood, but it was the sound of a heart breaking in real time. The snow kept falling, burying any hope she had of a happy family. He didn't even help her out. He just said he was on his way and walked off. He told her to have a safe delivery, like he was talking to a distant relative, not his wife. He didn't even look back as he boarded his own carriage to leave her again. His eyes were fixed on the distance. He had zero interest in the life they were creating together. Right then, she asked him to name the baby. If it's a girl, Diana. If it's a boy, Azil. He just shrugged and said he'd go with those names. He couldn't even be bothered to choose a name himself. But back then, Blair was so desperate for crumbs of affection that she actually smiled. She watched him leave, thinking he was going to save the world, but he was really just running away from her. Everyone knew him as the legendary magic swordsman, the hero of the continent, a literal war hero blessed by a divine beast, the golden boy of the empire. And then there was her, Blair Delmark, the imperial princess who was basically just a trophy. He left for the main castle the moment she got pregnant, leaving her to deal with everything alone. He claimed he was going to fight monsters, but Blair knew the truth. It was all just a pathetic excuse to avoid being in the same room as her. Their marriage was just politics. No love, no passion, just a deal signed in blood. Their families hated each other, and Blair was the one caught in the crossfire of all that bad blood. She knew he resented her for who she was, but she still hoped for more. She was so scared and so incredibly lonely in that massive, empty estate. And the worst part? He never came back, not even when she was in labor. When he finally did return 6 months later, Blair was holding their son, hoping for a reunion. But he didn't come back alone. He had a mysterious, silver-haired woman on his arm. Talk about a knife to the heart. Girl, the entire mansion is in a total frenzy. The maids are literally running through the halls because the big boss is finally making his grand entrance. His Excellency is almost here. After being gone for what feels like forever, the man of the house is finally coming home. You can see the nerves all over her face. She's been waiting so long for this moment, just hoping that today is the day everything finally changes for the better. And look at little Aziel. She's telling him his daddy is home and asking if they should go greet him together. My heart is actually breaking for her right now. I mean, look at those big blue eyes. This poor baby has never even met his father because the guy has been stuck up north for the last 6 months. She's so hyped. She thinks this is the fresh start they need, telling the baby it's the first time he'll see his dad since he was in her tummy. But deep down, she's haunted. Herden didn't even show up for the moment Aziel was born. She's convinced he still resents her for something. Can you imagine spending every single night alone, awake in tears, while your husband is miles away, essentially ghosting his own family? But she is trying so hard to stay strong. She wants to believe that he can't hold a grudge forever, especially now that they have a child together. The carriage is pulling up, and she's looking out the window like, okay, this is it. He has to love us now. We share a life. She really wants to build a proper family, even if they're starting late. She thinks Aziel is the bridge that's going to bring them back together. She became a mother, he became a father. She's clinging to the idea that these new roles will finally bind them as a real couple. She's doing it all for the sake of her lovely child. She's convinced that once Herden sees how much the baby looks like him, his heart will finally melt. She's walking down those grand halls with so much hope, thinking, your father will surely understand once he sees you. But then she looks down from the balcony and her whole world just stops. Something is very, very wrong with this picture. He's back after a year, but he didn't come alone. He brought another woman. And girl, they are looking way too comfortable together. The servants are already losing it. Everyone is asking, who is that? And why did they ride in the same carriage? The tea is officially scalding. That woman, her name is Miella Elias, and the look on our girl's face is pure, unadulterated devastation. Herden starts giving this whole professional speech about how she's a priestess who saved his knights from demonic beasts up north. Apparently, she's some brilliant talent, and he hired her to assist with the monsters. Sure, Jan, whatever you say to justify this. He claims she'll continue to serve him with utmost trust. But we all know how this storyline goes, right? It's never just professional. The maids are already calling it out. They're staying at the mansion together? Something is definitely going on behind closed doors. They're whispering that it's obvious Lady Miella likes him. I mean, the way she looks at him, that is not just a work look. And they're always together. The gossip is that it's only a matter of time before the Duke falls for her, too. It's like the madam doesn't even exist. And the worst part? People are actually saying Miella is a better match for him because our girl is the enemy's daughter. The absolute audacity! She's trying to ignore the rumors, but it's eating her alive. If she shows any reaction, she's basically admitting they might be true. Time is just flying by in the most miserable way. The suffocating summer passes, then autumn, and the coldness in that house just keeps growing. Winter returns, and the atmosphere is just as bleak as the snow outside. It's like the whole place is frozen in a state of sadness. Herden is always busy with work. He never seeks her out. He hasn't even tried to be a husband or a father since he got back. She tried to mend things, she really did. But after being rejected over and over, she just stopped trying. It's too painful to keep begging for crumbs. The only relief she had was that he occasionally showed some interest in Aziel. That tiny, faint glimmer of hope was all she had left to bet on. So she decides to make one last move. She's going to ask him for one simple thing, just for the baby's sake, one last time. Aziel's first birthday is in 15 days. She thinks maybe, just maybe, he'll agree to spend some family time together at the villa for the big day. She's walking toward his office, rehearsing the words in her head, her heart pounding like it's about to jump out of her chest. She's literally praying he says yes. This is her final attempt to save whatever is left of this marriage for her son's future. She gets to the office and realizes the door is actually open. She's about to step in when she sees something that ruins every hope she ever had. Her eyes go wide. Her heart just drops into her stomach. She can't believe what she's seeing right now. It's actually happening. She's frozen. She wants to turn away. She wants to scream, but she's paralyzed by the betrayal happening right in front of her. She sees them. Her husband, that woman. It's exactly what the rumors said, and seeing it is a million times worse. They're right there, in his office, holding each other like she doesn't even exist. The level of disrespect is actually insane. Herdan looks so indifferent, while Miella is clinging to him. He doesn't even look like he's being forced. He's just there with her. And Miella, she's right where she wanted to be, taking the place that should belong to the Duchess. She looks so smug. Our girl is just shattered. To see it with her own eyes, there's no coming back from this. The trust is officially dead. She hears them talking, and every word is like a fresh dagger to the heart. The betrayal is complete and total. And then he kisses her. He actually kisses her. I am screaming. How could he do this while his wife and child are in the same building? Miella says it feels like a dream and tells him she loves him. Girl, get a grip. That is a married man with a baby. Madame can't take another second of it. She turns and bolts, her world completely falling apart as she runs through the dark halls. She's running from the truth, running from the pain, but those words, "I love you," are just chasing her down like a nightmare. A few days later, on the actual birthday, a maid comes in with the worst news. Herden's schedule is delayed. He's not coming to his son's first birthday. So Aziel has a modest but happy first birthday without his father. The servants are trying their best to make it special, but it's so sad. They're eating delicious food and clapping, trying to keep the mood up for the little guy, but everyone knows the Duke is a total no-show. There are tons of gifts from the retainers, but not a single thing from the one person who should actually be there for him. Aziel is just a baby, so he's smiling and playing with the ribbons, totally unaware that his dad is basically abandoning him for another woman. But Madame, she's looking out that window, just empty. It was a perfect birthday, except for the fact that Herden chose his mistress over his son. She's holding him so tight, trying to be enough for him, but she's literally drowning in her own grief and regret. She tells him how beautiful and adorable he was today, trying to keep the vibes positive as she puts him to bed. "It's time for sleep, little one." She's whispering sweet things, but you can hear her voice cracking with every single word. He's drifting off, finally peaceful after a long day of being the center of attention. He's so innocent in all of this. But then he looks up and asks for his dad. My heart. He doesn't even know that his Abu doesn't care enough to show up. She's been waiting all day, hoping Herden would at least show up for 5 minutes before the day ended. But the clock has run out. The realization is finally setting in. He really isn't coming. He's probably with her right now, while his son is asking for him. She tells Aziel not to worry, that his father will definitely come before the day is over. She's lying to her baby just to keep his world from breaking. She tells him to have sweet dreams, acting like everything is fine while her entire soul is screaming in agony. The first tear finally falls. She can't keep the mask on anymore. The pain of being neglected like this is just too much to hold back. She stands there in the silence of the room, realizing she's completely and utterly alone in this marriage. Aziel doesn't know anything. He's just a baby who deserves all the love in the world, and his father can't even give him one day. She's sobbing now. Why did she love such a heartless man? Why did she waste years of her life on someone who treats her like trash? She collapses on the floor, just a mess of white silk and tears. He shouldn't have neglected Aziel. That's the line he shouldn't have crossed. She's literally gasping for air, the regret hitting her like a freight train. If she could go back in time, she'd never love him. Never. Suddenly, she hears footsteps. Her head snaps up. Is it him? Did Herden actually come back at the very last second? She looks up, half hoping, half terrified. "Herden?" she whispers, her voice trembling with the last bit of hope she has left. But it's not her husband. It's a man with a knife. Oh my God, an assassin? Right now? This girl literally can't catch a break. The night was deathly quiet, but that peace was about to be shattered in the most terrifying way possible. A sudden crash. My heart stopped. Someone was in the house, and they weren't here to talk. Panic surged through me. My first thought? Herden. No, this couldn't be happening now. A dark figure loomed in the doorway, a literal nightmare coming to life right before my eyes. He was looking for Aziel. I could feel it. I had to protect my baby no matter the cost. I reached for the bell rope with everything I had. Help! Please, someone, just help me! The bells started clanging downstairs, echoing through the silent halls of the estate. The maids jumped. A call from the madam's room? At this hour? They knew it was bad news. The wall of bells was dancing, but one in particular was ringing like it was possessed. It sounded frantic, desperate, not just a request for tea, but a scream for mercy. The staff stood frozen for a second, the sheer terror of that sound sinking into their bones. Back in the room, I was white-knuckling that rope, praying the guards would hear me in time. But then, pain. A sharp, cold sting that drained the air right out of my lungs. I looked down to see a blade. He actually did it. He stabbed me. The guards were coming. I could hear them running, but it felt like they were a world away. The assassin didn't even flinch. He was a professional, and I was just his latest target. Everything started to blur. The room was spinning, and the floor was suddenly coming up to meet me. I was gasping for air, my vision fading into darkness. Is this really how it ends? At least Aziel wasn't in here. At least he was safe in the nursery. That was my only comfort. But the thought of leaving him alone broke what was left of my heart. I can't die like this. My poor baby. He'd just found me. He'd just started to know his mother. It's not fair. The voices of the staff were getting louder, but their faces were just shadows in the dark. I collapsed onto the cold floor, the blood pooling around me. There was so much I still wanted to do. My eyes fluttered shut for the last time. Goodbye, my sweet Aziel. I'm so sorry. Then, something impossible happened. A flash of light, the sound of glass shattering, and time itself seemed to snap. I gasped, my eyes flying open. I was breathing? I was alive? I bolted upright, screaming my son's name. Aziel, where is he? I checked my body, trembling. There was no wound, no blood, no pain. Was it all a nightmare? But my hands? They were clean. My skin was perfect. I was definitely supposed to be dead. I looked around the room, and my jaw dropped. This wasn't my bedroom at the estate. The door opened, and a familiar face walked in. Lena? But she looked younger? I begged her to tell me where Aziel was, but she just looked at me with total confusion. She asked if I was talking about a stray cat? A cat? Aziel is my son. I was losing my mind. This wasn't a joke. I needed to see my baby right now. That's when the dissonance hit me. The air, the light, the smell of the room, it was all wrong. I looked up at the ceiling. This was the Imperial Palace. I hadn't lived here in years. Lena was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. She called me Your Highness, not Madam. Why would she call me that? I was a duchess. Unless… Oh God, what was happening? She told me I wasn't even married yet, that I couldn't possibly have a son. My blood ran cold. I grabbed her and asked the only question that mattered. Lena, exactly how old am I? 20, she said. I was 20. That meant I'd traveled back 3 years into the past. I stepped out into the palace, and it was like walking through a memory I'd already lived. Everything was exactly as it was before Aziel was ever born, before the tragedy. I was back at the family dinner table, surrounded by the very people who used me as a pawn. I saw myself in the mirror, a younger, more naive version of me. Was it all a dream, or am I reliving my life? I felt a deep chill. If this was real, then Aziel didn't exist yet. My heart felt hollow. Someone was calling my name. Blair! Blair! I snapped back to the present, or rather, the past. The maid whispered that the Empress Dowager was waiting for me to speak. I had to play along. Lena looked worried. I must have been spacing out for a while, lost in the horror of my own memories. There she was, Katrina Ardell, the Empress Dowager, cold, calculating, and as beautiful as a poisonous flower. And the Emperor, Ivan, he sat there sipping wine like he didn't have a care in the world. He was cutting into his steak with such precision, it made my skin crawl. He asked me what I was saying. Then he said it, the words that changed my life forever. He was talking about my marriage to the Duke. He told me to be prepared so there would be no issues, like I was just another item on his to-do list. The discussion was already over, apparently. He was handing me over like a prize horse.
He told me not to pout over losing my freedom. He expected me to be a good princess and obey. All the memories I'd buried came flooding back. The anger, the helplessness, the feeling of being trapped. In the past, this was the moment I fought back. I refused to marry Herden. I chose my own path. I had stood my ground for the first time in my life, thinking I was being brave. But looking at them now, I realized that my rebellion was exactly what led to my misery later. So I opened my mouth and said the one thing they never expected to hear. I'll do it. I'll marry him. The look of shock on their faces was almost worth it. I'll obey the emperor's will. This time, I'm playing a different game entirely. My mind was racing. Was I dreaming because I died? Or was this a second chance at life?
But every time I replayed the feeling of Azil's small hands in mine, I knew the truth. This isn't a dream. It's too real. The warmth of his skin, the sound of his laugh, it's all still so vivid. I could still feel him in my arms, and the thought of him not existing was a pain worse than death. This moment felt so hollow without him. I was a mother with no child, a queen with no kingdom. Azil was my hope. He was my entire life. I couldn't just let him vanish into a timeline that didn't happen. If I return to the past, then a reality without him is just a living hell I won't accept. So for me in this life, there's only one path. I must marry Herden no matter what, because that's the only way to get my son back. Blair is on a mission, y'all. She is willing to go through absolutely anything just to see Aziel again. Her heart is set and she's not looking back. Even if it means living through a miserable, lonely marriage for a second time, she's all in. If that's the price for her goal, she'll pay it without hesitation. She starts getting ready, and you can just tell something big is brewing in that head of hers. The stakes are high and the game is about to begin. She tells her maid, Lena, to send a message to the Delmark Duchy immediately. She needs a meeting, and she needs it now. Lena is literally shaking. Like, girl, are you serious right now? You want to meet the Duke? The drama is already off the charts. Blair is just cool as a cucumber, acting like it's no big deal. She asks why Lena looks so shocked, but we all know why. Lena heads out to follow orders, but her mind is spinning. This is totally out of character for the princess, and everyone knows it. She's thinking about how much Blair used to avoid the Duke like the plague. They were basically enemies in another life. At the last banquet, Blair wouldn't even look in his direction. There was zero vibe, just cold shoulders and awkward silence. See, the history between these two families is messy, like super messy. There's a whole lot of bad blood and secrets buried here. Everyone in the palace knows the princess reaching out to a Delmark is basically unheard of. It's like a declaration of war or a desperate plea. To understand the drama, we gotta go back to the late emperor and his two women. This is where the real tea starts spilling. First, you had the legal wife and empress, Esmeralda. Classy, beautiful, but she had no children for years, which was a huge problem. Then came the imperial concubine, Katrina. She was the other woman brought in for one job, and she was clearly ready for the spotlight. Since the empress couldn't have kids, Katrina was brought in as a concubine. The power dynamics shifted the moment she stepped into the palace. Katrina was a gypsy with zero political power or influence, but she was determined to make her mark on the imperial family. She gave birth to a son, Ivan, and things started changing fast. Suddenly, she had the leverage she needed to climb the social ladder. As soon as she had that heir, everyone wanting a piece of the throne started sucking up to her. The political snakes were out in full force. The rivalry between Esmeralda and Katrina turned into a full-on political war zone. It wasn't just about love anymore, it was about survival. And right in the middle of all this chaos was a little girl named Blair. She was caught between two powerful women who hated each other.
You'd think the Empress would hate her rival's daughter, right? That's usually how these stories go, but wait until you hear this. But surprisingly, that wasn't the case at all. There was a connection there that no one saw coming, and it changed everything. Esmeralda actually adored Blair. She cherished the daughter of her political rival, which was honestly the biggest plot twist of the era. But then, the incident happened, a massive fire that changed the course of history and left the palace in ruins. The Empress's palace went up in flames. It was absolutely devastating, and the smoke could be seen for miles. The Empress didn't make it. Blair was with her and was severely injured. The trauma was so bad that she lost all her memories of that night, just a total blank. The Emperor went on a total rampage trying to find out who tried to kill his daughter. He wanted heads on pikes, and he wanted them now. And guess what? All the evidence pointed straight back to the dead Empress, Esmeralda. Talk about a cold-blooded accusation. Her birth family, the Delmarks, were screaming that it was a setup, but nobody was listening. The political tide had already turned against them. In the end, Esmeralda was buried as a traitor to the crown, a total injustice for a woman who might have been innocent all along. Back in the present, a knock comes at the Duke's door. The message has finally arrived, and you can feel the tension in the air. The messenger tells him there's a letter from the Ardell imperial family. The room goes silent. This is a moment no one expected.
And that brings us to our guy, Duke Herden Delmark, Esmeralda's only nephew. He's got that brooding, dangerous energy we all love. Back at the palace, Lena is still worried sick. She knows Blair was the victim in that fire, so why would she ever welcome this marriage? She thinks there's no way Blair would want to be part of the family that allegedly tried to kill her. It just doesn't make any sense. But somehow, Blair is acting like it's the best day of her life. She's practically glowing, and it's honestly a little eerie. She looks gorgeous, but there's a look in her eyes that says she's playing a very dangerous game. She's got a plan, and she's sticking to it. Meanwhile, the Duke's side is just as salty about this whole thing. They think the Emperor is being completely shameless with this proposal. His aide, Ruth, is fuming. He's ranting about how the Emperor celebrated while the Delmark family was failing. Talk about a grudge. Herden just sits there, looking like a literal god, soaking in all the bitterness. He's calm, but you can tell he's calculating his next move. Ruth is worried the Emperor is just trying to absorb the Duke's influence now that he's a war hero. He's not wrong, honestly. They pull up to the palace, and the tension is high enough to cut with a knife. This meeting is going to be legendary. I can feel it. Ruth is still grumbling under his breath as they prepare to step inside. He really doesn't want to be here, and he's not hiding it. He thinks the princess is just getting lucky landing the Empire's finest groom without lifting a finger. If only he knew the truth. Little does he know, Blair is the one running this show now. She's walking into this with her head held high and a secret in her pocket. Lena watches her, realizing that the old Blair who ran away is gone. This version is sharp, determined, and maybe a little scary. Blair is locked in. She's focused on one goal and one goal only, and she's not going to let anyone stand in her way. She needs this marriage to go off without a single hitch. Herden has to become her husband, no matter what it takes. The doors open, and there he is, Duke Herden, looking as intimidating and handsome as ever. The room's temperature just dropped 10 degrees. Blair reminds herself that she cannot let him slip through her fingers. She needs him for her plan to work, and she's ready to fight for it. She puts on her best princess face and prepares for the confrontation. It's showtime, and she's not going to miss her mark. She thanks him for making time, keeping it polite but firm. She's showing him that she's not the same girl he used to know. He bows and kisses her hand, but it's more like a challenge than a greeting. The sparks are flying, but they're definitely not the romantic kind. The air in the room is thick. They both know this isn't just a social visit. There's a deal on the table, and it's time to talk. Blair decides to drop the act and get right to the point. No more games, no more dancing around the subject. It's time for the truth. She tells him straight up she's not going to refuse the marriage proposal. She's accepting her fate, but on her own terms. He's like, yeah, figured. It's hard to say no to an emperor's command. He thinks he knows her motive, but he's so wrong. But then she drops the conditions. 1 year, she says. Just 1 year of marriage. Now that's a contract I can get behind. She promises to divorce him after a year and take all the public blame. She's offering him freedom and a clean reputation. She even promises she won't bother him with trivial things like love. Ouch, that's cold, but it's exactly what he wants to hear. Herden looks intrigued, but he needs a real reason to agree to this. Why should he trust the daughter of the man who ruined his family? And that's when she gives him the real offer, the one he can't refuse. She's got the leverage, and she's using it. She promises to help him uncover the real truth about that palace fire from 10 years ago. Now she's speaking his language. Herden lets out this dark, chilling laugh. He knows she's serious, and honestly, he's here for the chaos. This is going to be wild. Everything starts with that nightmare from 10 years ago, the fire at the Empress's palace that changed the course of history forever. Blair is putting it all on the line. She tells the dupe that if he accepts her proposal, she'll help him uncover the real truth of what happened that night. Look at that smirk. The Duke isn't just listening, he's calculating every single word, weighing the value of the princess's offer. He's probably thinking, how can you even show your face here after all this time? The tension in the air is literally thick enough to cut with a knife. We're flashing back to a time of total desperation, where someone was frantically writing, begging for a way out of this suffocating darkness. Please help me, princess. It's a haunting plea from the past that still echoes in the silence of this very room. Someone was desperate to clear their aunt's name, knowing deep down she wasn't the monster the world made her out to be. But back then, the response was cold and distant. A young girl caught in a web of lies she didn't have the strength to escape. I don't remember anything. The most painful lie anyone could tell when the truth is screaming to be heard. That denial sparked a deep sense of betrayal and resentment that has been festering for an entire decade. 10 years of silence, and now she just brings it up? No wonder he's questioning her motives for this marriage. The Duke looks like he's trying to see right through her soul. He needs to know what her real game is before he commits. Blair plays it cool, sipping her tea like a total pro. She tells him straight up, marriage is her only legal ticket out of the imperial palace. He gets all concerned, asking if it wouldn't be better to marry someone who actually loves and cherishes her. Like he actually cares? Love? Girl, please. In this world, love is just a weapon used to control you. She knows better than to fall for that trap again. She's done with the fairy tale nonsense. No more hollow eternities for our girl Blair. She's living for the now. She doesn't believe in things like love anymore. She's seen the dark side of it and she's never going back. Give and take, that's the only kind of relationship she trusts. Clear boundaries and no messy feelings to get in the way. She thinks the Duke is the perfect partner for this business deal because he's just as cold and calculated as she needs him to be. She's standing her ground, staring him down with those piercing violet eyes. She's not the scared little girl she used to be. She flashes back to an old dream, wanting to leave the palace and travel the wide world, a dream that was crushed before it could begin. Can you take me to the sea? A simple wish from a child that feels a million miles away from the cold reality she's living in now. The Duke is finally starting to see the potential in this arrangement. He's not doing this for her. He's doing it for his own power. I accept that proposal. Boom! The deal is sealed. The tea is officially brewing and things are about to get messy. He's got his own reasons hidden away. He was never going to defy the emperor anyway, so why not gain a useful pawn? He sees this as a high-stakes chess match. The marriage is just a strategic move to increase the duchy's troops. The emperor used treason as a pretext to gut his forces, and now the duke is playing the long game to get them back. If he can use the princess to find out the truth about that day, it's a win-win. And once he's done, he's planning a clean divorce. Blair gets up to leave, her head held high. She got exactly what she came for, but the air is still thick with secrets. She stops for a split second, looking back. There's something she wants to ask, something burning deep in her chest. But the Duke is already moving on. He's a brick wall, and she knows he won't give her the real answers yet. She clenches her hands, struggling with the weight of her own questions. This is only the beginning of her fight.
She wonders if the man in front of her is the same one she remembers, the one who might have been her downfall. She watches him walk away, the ghost of a name lingering on her lips. Herden. Did you kill me? Chills, literally chills. She's haunted by her past life and the man who might have ended it. We skip forward to the day before the wedding. Blair is at a graveyard, and you can feel the heaviness in the air. She's there to visit her biological mother, the Empress who was lost in that fire. She's finally facing the grief she buried. She's apologizing for ignoring her mother's memory for 10 whole years. She was just a child trying to survive in a house of snakes. Now, she's finally trying to piece together the memories she locked away to stay safe. The truth is painful, but she can't run. Back then, she was terrified. No matter what the truth was, she felt like she was going to lose a mother either way. In her previous life, she tried to face this for the Duke's sake, but it only led to her own health failing and her spirit breaking. She was broken and discarded back then. The man she loved just watched her wither away while telling her to stay silent. He told her to do nothing, to just stay still, just as she had done her whole life. He wanted her to be a ghost, but that version of Blair is dead. This new Blair knows that nothing will ever change if she keeps avoiding the shadows. Her maid interrupts her thoughts. The Grand Empress Dowager is waiting. Duty calls, even when your heart is in pieces. She's determined. In this life, she's going to face the truth head-on and leave that regretful past behind her for good. And then, crack! A slap out of nowhere. The current Empress Mother is absolutely losing her mind. She's screaming about Blair visiting that woman right before the wedding. The jealousy and rage are radiating off her. She's playing the I'm your mother card, trying to guilt-trip Blair after abusing her for years. Girl, the audacity! Blair just takes it, but you can see the cold fire in her eyes. She's done being the punching bag for this woman. The Empress Mother starts her usual lecture about how Blair needs to be loved and enviable, just like she was. She calls the biological mother's life pathetic and useless because she wasn't loved. This woman is seriously toxic. This was what Blair was taught love looked like: strict control, constant criticism, and a plate of rules. Strict weight management, perfect behavior. Everything was a performance to earn just a scrap of affection from a monster. She thought if she just endured the pain, her maids wouldn't get punished and she'd finally be seen as beautiful. She wanted the world to love her, so she let them break her spirit. It's honestly heartbreaking to see what she went through. But everything changed the moment she held her son Azil in her previous life. That was the first time she felt real, pure love. Seeing her child eat happily was more precious to her than any crown. She realized the Empress's version of love was a lie. True love isn't about control or making someone a great support for your own political power. It's something much deeper. Blair finally speaks up, throwing it back in her face. "Since when did you care for me so much, mother? Ooh, get her." The maids are absolutely gasping. No one talks back to the Empress like that. The atmosphere is totally electric now.
The Empress mother looks like she's about to explode. Her perfect daughter is finally showing her teeth. Blair mockingly worries about her face being scarred before the wedding. She's using the Empress's own words as a weapon. She clenches her fist, refusing to let this woman have power over her emotions ever again. She's taking control.
You really are driving a stake through your mother's heart. The Empress is playing the victim now. How predictable. Blair walks away, her heels clicking on the floor with every step. She's leaving the ignorant past behind her. It's the end of a painful, unrequited love for a mother who never deserved a single ounce of it. She's finally free. She's stepping into her new life, ready to face the wedding and whatever the Duke has planned. Watch out, world!